Please, sir, if we sing and play the piano for you, will you give us some food? Even just a leftover loaf of bread. We haven't eaten in 2 days. That was the question 10-year-old Catherine asked, standing center stage at the prestigious Williams Theater. Her voice trembled, echoing through the massive hall. Beside her stood her twin sister, Christine, shaking violently from the cold, water dripping from their ragged clothes onto the polished wooden floor. They were interrupting the city's most famous orchestra. In front of them sat hundreds of the wealthiest people in the city, dressed in diamonds and tuxedos. And standing right next to them was Desmond Jackson, the arrogant, world-famous pianist who looked at these two starving children as if they were garbage. "You," Jackson scoffed, his voice booming over the microphone. "You two street rats think you can perform on my stage in exchange for bread." He turned to the audience, a cruel smirk on his face. "Ladies and gentlemen, look at this. The entertainment has arrived early." The audience erupted in laughter. It wasn't kind laughter, it was mocking, sharp, and cruel. They pointed at the girls' holes in their shoes. They giggled at their matted hair. The humiliation burned hotter than the hunger in Catherine's stomach. But just as the security guards rushed forward to throw them out into the freezing rain, Catherine sat at the piano. She looked at her sister, nodded once, and placed her dirty, shivering fingers on the pristine white keys. What happened next didn't just silence the laughter, it changed history. Hello, friends, and welcome to our story here on Kindness Valley. It is a tale of pain, music, and a miracle that no one saw coming. Before we dive into this emotional journey, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us share more stories like this. Also, we love hearing from you. Let us know in the comments where are you watching from today. Are you in New York, London, maybe Mumbai or Sydney? Let us know below. Now let's go back to where this night began. It was a night that felt like the world had lost all its warmth. The rain in the city wasn't just falling, it was attacking. The wind howled through the alleyways, cutting through the thin, torn t-shirts of Catherine and Christine. They were huddled together in a doorway across the street from the glowing, golden entrance of the Williams Theater. "I can't feel my toes, Catherine," Christine whispered. Her voice was so weak it was barely a breath. Her lips were turning a terrifying shade of blue. "I'm so tired." Catherine, the older twin by only 10 minutes, squeezed her sister's hand. It felt like holding a block of ice. "Stay awake, Chrissy. You have to stay awake. Look at the lights." Across the street, the theater looked like a palace. Luxury cars were pulling up, delivering men in black suits and women in furs. They looked so happy. They looked so warm. Catherine knew that inside that building there was food. There was heat. "We're going in," Catherine decided, her jaw set tight. "We can't," Christine whimpered. "The guards, they'll hurt us again." "If we stay here, we die," Catherine said, her voice cracking. "Mama always said we had a gift, remember? She said our voices could melt hearts. We just need one person to listen." Holding hands, the twins ran across the street, dodging splashing taxis and angry horns. They didn't go to the front door, they knew better than that. Instead, they found a heavy metal side door that had been propped open by a worker taking out the trash. Heart pounding, Catherine pulled Christine inside. The warmth hit them instantly. It smelled of expensive perfume, old wood, and floor wax. They crept down a long hallway, their wet sneakers squeaking on the linoleum. They were terrified, but the sound of music pulled them forward. It was a piano being played with incredible skill. They found themselves backstage, hidden behind a tower of black equipment crates. From the shadows, they could see the stage. It was magnificent. The lights were blindingly bright, and in the center sat a grand piano that shone like polished glass. The man playing it was Desmond Jackson. He finished his rehearsal with a flourish, and the small group of staff applauded. He stood up, wiping his hands with a silk handkerchief. "Perfect, as always," Jackson declared, his nose in the air. Beside him stood Madame Esther, a famous opera singer draped in a red velvet gown. "These people are lucky to hear us," Esther laughed, checking her reflection in a mirror. "Though I dread the meet and greet afterwards, I hate having to shake hands with the commoners." Catherine felt a pit in her stomach. These people weren't kind, but then she looked at Christine. Her sister had stopped shivering, but now she looked faint, her eyes rolling back slightly. She needed food. Now, the show began. The curtains opened and the applause was deafening. Jackson played and Esther sang. It was technically perfect, but it felt cold. It was music for showing off, not for feeling. As the concert ended and the applause roared, the musicians began to take their bows. The stage was chaotic, with flowers being thrown and people cheering. "Now," Catherine whispered. "Before they leave." "Catherine, no," Christine pleaded, but Catherine dragged her out from behind the crates. They walked onto the stage. At first, because they were so small, no one noticed them. But as they moved into the spotlight, blinking against the glare, the applause started to die down. It started as a confused murmur. Then a few people in the front row pointed. The orchestra members turned around. Desmond Jackson, who was bowing to the crowd, froze. He spun around and saw the two dripping, filthy children standing near his precious piano. "What is the meaning of this?" Jackson shouted, his voice amplified by the stage mics. "Security, get these rodents off my stage." That was the moment Catherine asked for the bread. The moment the crowd laughed. "Please, sir," Catherine repeated, her voice stronger this time, despite the tears welling in her eyes. "We aren't beggars, we want to earn it, our mama. She taught us to sing before she died. She said music is magic." "Your mama," Madame Esther scoffed, stepping forward. "Let me guess, your mother was some drunk who hummed tunes in the gutter. And now you want to pollute this theater with your screeching. Let them sing," a man shouted from the balcony, laughing. "It'll be a comedy show." "Yes, go on," another woman cried out. "Dance for your dinner, little street rats," Jackson grinned. He saw a chance to humiliate them and entertain the crowd. He swept his arm toward the piano. "Very well, entertain us. But be warned, if you are terrible, I will personally have you thrown into the alley." Catherine led Christine to the piano. She sat on the bench, which was soft and comfortable. Christine stood beside her, clutching Catherine's shoulder. "Mama's song," Catherine whispered. Christine nodded, tears streaming down her dirt-streaked face. Catherine took a breath. She didn't look at the cruel faces in the crowd. She closed her eyes and pictured her mother, Helen. She pictured the small, cold room they used to live in, and how Mama would sing to make the hunger go away. She pressed the keys. The melody wasn't complicated. It wasn't a showy piece by Mozart or Beethoven. It was simple, haunting, and melancholic. But the touch. Catherine played with a tenderness that Desmond Jackson had never possessed. Then Christine opened her mouth. "When the wind blows cold and the night is long." Her voice was like a bell, clear, pure, and filled with a sorrow so deep it felt like it was breaking. It wasn't the voice of a child. It was the voice of an old soul that had seen too much pain. "Close your eyes, my darling, you are never alone." The laughter in the audience died instantly. The smiles on the rich people's faces vanished. Catherine added harmonies with her own voice while her fingers danced across the keys. The twins' voices blended perfectly, weaving together in a tapestry of grief and hope. They were singing for their lives. They were singing for their mother. They were singing for every cold night and every empty stomach. In the front row, a woman dropped her opera glasses. In the balcony, the man who had heckled them sat down, stunned silence falling over him. On stage, Desmond Jackson's jaw dropped. He looked at Madame Esther, who was no longer sneering. She looked shocked. But the person most affected was a man standing in the wings of the stage. Lucas Williams, the owner of the theater, had rushed down from his office when he heard the commotion. He was coming to throw the intruders out. But when the first note hit the air, he froze. His heart hammered against his ribs. He knew that song. He knew that melody. He walked onto the stage, ignoring the performance, moving like a man in a trance. He stared at the backs of the girls. He saw their black hair. He heard the unique lilt in their voices. "Sleep now, my angels, until the morning brings the sun." Catherine struck the final chord. It hung in the air, vibrating through the silence. For 10 seconds, no one moved. Then the sound of sobbing broke the silence. It wasn't the girls, it was the audience. People were openly weeping. Desmond Jackson, recovering his arrogance, stepped forward to mock them again, but a booming voice stopped him. "Don't you dare move." Lucas Williams stepped into the light. He was a powerful man, wealthy and respected, but right now, tears were streaming down his face. He walked past Jackson and fell to his knees beside the piano bench. The girls flinched, terrified he would hit them. "That song," Lucas whispered, his voice shaking. Where did you learn that song?" Catherine looked at him with wide, fearful eyes. "Our mama taught us, she wrote it for us." Lucas felt like the floor was falling out from under him. "What was your mother's name?" "Helen," Christine squeaked. "Helen Harper." A gasp went through the room, but Lucas didn't hear it. He let out a sob that echoed through the microphone. Helen! He looked at their faces, really looked at them. He saw his own chin. He saw Helen's eyes. He saw the woman he had loved more than life itself, the woman who had disappeared 5 years ago without a trace. I didn't know, Lucas wept, reaching out a trembling hand to touch Catherine's hair. I didn't know. Mr. Williams, Jackson interrupted, annoyed. What is this drama? Get these beggars out so we can. You are fired, Lucas snapped, not even looking at him. Excuse me, Lucas stood up, his face thunderous. You are fired, get off my stage, get out of my theater. If you ever speak to my daughters like that again, I will ruin you. The word rang out like a gunshot. Daughters. The audience gasped. Reporters in the back row started flashing their cameras. Catherine and Christine looked at each other, confused. Daughters, Catherine whispered, but our daddy left us. Mama said he went away. Lucas knelt back down, ignoring the hundreds of people watching. No, I didn't leave. I never left. My father, your grandfather, he told me she died. He told Helen I didn't want her. He lied to us both because she was poor and I was rich. Lucas pulled the two filthy, wet, shivering girls into his arms, burying his face in their necks. He didn't care about the mud on their clothes ruining his expensive suit. I have been looking for her for 5 years, he sobbed. I thought I was alone, but you're here, you're real. Are you? Are you really our papa? Christine asked, her voice filled with a desperate hope. Yes, Lucas promised, holding them tighter. I am, and I swear to you, you will never be cold again. You will never be hungry again. I'm taking you home. The audience, finally understanding what was happening, rose to their feet. It started as a slow clap, then built into a roar, a standing ovation. Not for the piano playing, but for the reunion, for the miracle. Lucas stood up, holding a hand of each girl. He looked at the crowd. Tonight's performance is over, he announced, his voice thick with emotion. But my life is just beginning. He led them off the stage, past a stunned Desmond Jackson, and straight to his private car. That night, for the first time in years, Catherine and Christine didn't sleep on cardboard. They slept in a massive bed with down comforters. They had eaten roast chicken and warm soup until they were full. They had taken hot baths with bubbles. Lucas sat in a chair between their beds, watching them sleep, terrified that if he closed his eyes, they might disappear. The next morning, the news was everywhere. The miracle at the Williams Theater. The story of the twin girls who sang for bread and found a father traveled around the world. Desmond Jackson's career never recovered. His cruelty had been exposed for everyone to see. But Catherine and Christine didn't care about the news. They cared about the man who sat with them at the piano the next day, playing the harmony to their mother's song. Years passed. The girls grew up, not as homeless wanderers, but as cherished daughters. They went to the best music schools, but they never performed in stuffy concert halls for the rich. Instead, every weekend, the Williams Theater opened its doors for free. Catherine and Christine would sing, and Lucas would play the piano. The front rows were reserved for the homeless, the hungry, and the lonely. They sang to remind people that even in the darkest, coldest nights, there is hope. They sang to remind the world that a person's worth isn't in their clothes, but in their soul. And every time they sang their mother's lullaby, they would look to the side of the stage, where Lucas stood, smiling with pride, tears glistening in his eyes. Thank you so much for watching this story on Kindness Valley. It's a beautiful reminder that we should never judge a book by its cover, and that kindness, and a little bit of music, can truly change the world. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming tales. Remember, be kind to one another, because you never know who is standing right in front of you. See you in the next video.